With an astonishing 4.9 stars on the Epic Games Store, overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, and 96% ratings on the Google reviews. People absolutely love Satisfactory. But why? And how has it managed to stay relevant for over 5 years now? Well, I believe there are 5 key elements behind this. That is updates, developers, content creators, and finally challenging and rewarding elements. Starting with our first key point, and that is updates. Over the years we have had an absolute bunch of updates which, again, people seem to be really enjoying. And one of the main reasons as to why it can remain consistent is because of the content that they are adding in these updates. And the majority of the time, it's game-changing stuff, whether it's adding trains or adding a bunch of water and pipes into the game. Whenever there's an update in Satisfactory, you know for a fact it's going to be big, and you know for a fact it's going to be awesome. Not to mention, there is a pretty good amount of hype build up before each update, so you know when it's going to happen and roughly what it's going to contain without knowing absolutely everything, because then it'll just spoil a bit of the hype. Think about update 1.0, which is coming out now within the next few weeks. We know roughly what there's going to be in the update, but we don't know everything, which is good because it builds up the hype, because we know that there's going to be a bunch of stuff in it, but it also doesn't ruin the surprise by revealing everything that is in the update. So when it comes to updates in Satisfactory, I think the way that Coffee Stain Studio does it is fantastic. And speaking about Coffee Stain Studio, let's move on to our second key point, and that is the developers. Something which I've found after playing a few indie games, and I would consider Coffee Stain Studio an indie developer, is they seem to listen to community feedback a lot better than AAA games. In my life, I've played games like Call of Duty and Battlefield, as AAA as you can get, and I've played much smaller games like Fall Guys and Satisfactory. And what I've noticed with games like Fall Guys and Satisfactory is that the devs seem to actually give more of a crap about their audience and about the people that play the game, rather than, EA or other people. And that's not to say that everyone who works for EA or everyone that works for DICE, for Battlefield, or everyone that works for Treyarch doesn't care, because I'm sure there are some incredible people in every studio, but from personal experience at least, it just comes across like, again, Coffee Stain Studio seems to care about people, which, as a consumer of their game, is really awesome to see. When you buy their game, you don't end up just being another customer, another $30 into the bank account. It's more like you almost join this family, and Coffee Stain Studio makes you feel a part of that. They want to hear your feedback, they want to hear what you have to say, which again, I think is really, really cool, and it's one of the reasons why I like a lot of indie developers, especially, again, Coffee Stain Studios. I think they're just awesome. Also, they tend to host weekly Twitch streams where they go over a bunch of stuff, and one of the segments they do is Q&As. Especially when it comes to a big update, people always want to ask questions. When's this going to come out? Is this going to be added? Are you going to remove this? Is this going to be tweaked? All the classic questions we have when it comes to Satisfactory. And they seem to answer a lot of them, or if they don't directly answer them, they still have a response. Like, are you going to add such and such in 1.1 and 1.0? They might say, we might do, we might not. It's not a direct answer, but they still respond to the question, which makes you feel that, okay, they are listening, they are aware of this issue, which is fantastic. Especially when it comes to things like bugs, which, yeah, in Satisfactory there have been a few bugs, but nowhere near compared to games like, again, like FIFA and Battlefield and Call of Duty. So in regards of bugs, I think Satisfactory is normally pretty good, but in case there is an issue, people often do ask, like, are you going to be fixing this issue? Is there like a date and when this is going to get fixed? And if this is asked during the Twitch streams, they often say, yeah, we're on it, yeah, we're going to do it, or we're aware about it, but we're trying to fix it, things like that. So they acknowledge the issue, and they try and fix it, which again, is amazing. Next, moving on to content. When it comes to content in Satisfactory, I always find myself doing something. Like, again, playing a game like, for example, Minecraft, it gets to a stage where, okay, you've been building for a long time, you've been mining for a long time, you've been exploring for a long time, but you sort of hit a wall, and you feel like you're not really progressing unless you do something like slaying the Ender Dragon or whatever. But in Satisfactory, whenever I log on, and let's say one day I don't particularly want to be dealing with logistics for the next 20 hours. So instead I go exploring, I collect some biomass maybe, or I get some power slugs. There is always something to do in Satisfactory, which makes the content amazing. Secondly, as I'll get to towards the end of the video, a lot of the content that's in the game I find a little bit challenging, and that doesn't suck. I like to get, challenged every now and then, and Satisfactory definitely does that. I feel like it's one of the few games I play where I actually become almost smarter when I play the game. Again, unlike Call of Duty, where I feel like I'm consistently losing brain cells, whereas in Satisfactory it's like, okay, I'm gonna log on today, doing some logistics, doing some maths, doing some calculations. It's almost like maths, but done fun, which is weird, but really good. Also, to do with content, bear in mind, there is an absolute ton of milestones that you can unlock in the hub, and pretty much every single milestone you do unlock something new in the game, or unlock something fun, or epic, or awesome, or just even, again, challenging. So that's always pretty cool with the content. You know that when you're about to unlock something, it's most likely going to be game-changing, but in a really good way. One of my favorite things about Satisfactory is choosing between a mega project or a more of a modular factory. Because, again, I love to do mega projects. Mega projects take lots of planning. The planning is fun. Like, it's a game where planning is enjoyable. And again, I feel like other games, but when you do plan, it's quite tedious. But with Satisfactory, it is still a bit tedious, but in a good way. It's very good, though. I really enjoy it. I like Satisfactory. I know it's very difficult to tell. I do enjoy this game. I know, crazy. The fourth point is content creators. So, Twitch streamers, YouTubers, Rumble for the 3 people on there. But I feel like the reason why this is so important is from the content creators I've seen. They all offer something completely different. Think about someone like Kibitz, for example. I'm sure a lot of people here have seen Kibitz. When you see his content, it's like, what the hell is going on? At the same time, it all works out. The planning is done perfectly. Yeah, it looks a bit like a mess, but it's an organized mess. It's organized chaos. Speaking about chaos, you've got Let's Game It Out. I recently reacted to one of his videos and I had 3 panic attacks during it. No, it wasn't that bad, but it was a different experience compared to Kibitz. Both of them, absolutely amazing, but very different kinds of gameplay, which again, if you were to watch a game like, again, Call of Duty, you've got a sweat, you've got a noob, and you've got someone in the middle. Brilliant, great. But with Satisfactory, you've got so many different playstyles. And again, Total Eclipse and Bits, 2 amazing content creators. And then you have people like Construction, which if you haven't seen his content, I highly recommend checking it out. He is an absolute legend when it comes to building stuff in Satisfactory. And I don't know how he only has about 5k subs. He deserves way more. He builds like Star Wars design stuff in Satisfactory. And again, like, the thought process is absolutely incredible. And then you have people like What Darren Plays, which, he streams his content. It's really good fun to see, like, a bit behind the process, I suppose. Just seeing the way that he designs factories. It's really cool. Almost every single content creator I watch has their own unique style. And that's what I think is so awesome about Satisfactory. Because again, you watch other games, it's the same thing with like a different accent. You've got an American, you've got a Brazilian, you've got a British guy, you've got a French guy and a German. But in Satisfactory, it's just, there's so many different kinds of gameplay. And accents as well, but mostly gameplay. Which is really, really awesome. And again, content creators in Satisfactory, I think are some of the best out there. Like, the creativity, the art, everything. It's really cool. Finally, we have challenging and rewarding elements. I did briefly touch on this earlier, but I think it deserves its entire category. Because Satisfactory, for me at least, is a challenging game. It's the very first factory automator I've ever played. I never played games like Factorio, for example. So I was definitely diving into the deep end a little bit. But I've significantly enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I mean, I've seen lots of gameplay before I got the game, obviously. But it's a really good game, and I'm having tons of fun playing it. Mostly because it's challenging. It's not one of those games where you can log on and you can be great within a day. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes practice, it takes just a lot of skill just trying to master the game, which I, again, really enjoy. Would I say that the game has a steep learning curve? I would say it sort of does. I I feel like the first couple stages of the hub is not really that bad. You're just learning how to craft iron plates and iron rods. But if you are a new player, you're most likely going to struggle a little bit, especially when it gets to later stages where you realize, okay, I'm only making 100 iron plates, I need 400, but I haven't got enough iron. I've got to belt all that out, get new miners. How am I going to transport it to my base? Am I going to create a mega project? Am I going to do a modular factory? It's little things like that take time. But I think that's also like the best part of the game, where you sort of don't know what you're doing and you're acting a bit like a headless chicken. I actually really enjoyed that element when I was first new to the game, so I think that's pretty awesome. Again, this category is called challenging and rewarding elements. What's the rewarding side? Well, I've got to be honest, whenever I build a big factory especially, and you just see all the logistics coming together, you can see all the items on a conveyor belt, just, you know, going from point A to point B. Again, if you've seen episode 3 of my Satisfactory series, you can see this in my starter factory, but I absolutely just love seeing everything going everywhere. It's such a rewarding feeling, especially when you're on that final space elevator tier, and you can see the nuclear pasta of the thermal propulsion units just coming out of like the assemblers, whatever you used to create it. It's such an amazing feeling, because you can say to yourself, you know, I've done that. I've worked hard for that. I've, you know, lost a few brain cells, but gained many more along the way. It's such a rewarding feeling that, again, lots of other games don't seem to have. The only thing I can relate it to, I suppose, is in City Skylines, when you unlock milestones going from like a tiny town to a big town, into a city, into a, you know, whatever comes after city. But it's really cool. But Satisfactory just does something a little bit differently though, which, again, I really just enjoy. And I know it's not just me that enjoys these things. If you read any of the comments on Satisfactory videos or streams or their trailers, it's actually kind of difficult to find a negative comment. A lot of these people seem to be really enjoying the game. And just think for a second about all the games that have come out recently and how a lot of them aren't really doing very well. There was that one first-person shooter game that was like Overwatch, but not like Overwatch. I completely forgot what it's called. I'll put it on the screen. People really didn't like it, but with Satisfactory, again, I struggle to find negative comments because of all the things I've mentioned. The updates are fantastic. The content for the game is amazing. The developers have done an outstanding job listening to feedback, improving on the game, and not adding anything that sucks. We've added some difficult stuff, but nothing that I feel like ruins the game, at least. Also, with content creators, they're inspiring. Like, you watch someone, like literally anyone but me, and you get inspired by them. I'm sure that when Update 1 does drop, it will be amazing, and I cannot wait to stream it and provide you guys with some gameplay on it. So, that is all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and let me know, do you guys like Satisfactory? I mean, you probably do if you're watching this video. Yeah, click on the left or right of your screen to see more of my content and subscribe for daily Satisfactory videos. We're getting so close to 1,000 subs now. Thank you guys, and have an amazing rest of your day. And remember, Godspeed.